Hello and welcome to Fresh Face Comics, the comic book podcast, our lifelong comic book reader, guys that's run through the world of comics for the first time. My name is Joey Morgan, the aforementioned lifelong reader. With me, as always, is Jacob Licklider, the aforementioned newbie.
Oh, in a D&D party, do we think Thor would play a paladin or go completely left field and play something weird like a wizard?
No, I think we got at least Paladin, Barbarian in there. Probably a multi-class of the two.
Or a triple class of paladin, barbarian, cleric of himself.
That is that is a very very possible thing. And joining us today to talk about, or continue rather, Jason Aaron's Thor run with Thor the Accursed is first-time guest of the podcast, Connor, aka Genesis of Androzani. Connor, welcome to the podcast.
Yes, it is I, Connor, son of Stephen.
Yeah, welcome. This kind of came about through I think a really funny turn of events. We were recording a video for Brian's channel not terribly long ago, and Jacob was like, "We should get Connor on the podcast." I was like, "Yeah, totally." And you were like, "I own exactly one comic," and I was like, "What comic is it, Connor?" And you had what is it? The first 25 issues of Jason Aaron's Thor.
That's correct.
Yeah, absolutely insane. And so here we are. Now you're here to talk Thor with us. And yeah, yes, I'm excited.
And my history with Jason Aaron is also a funny turn of events as well that lasts 10 years from then to now.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, totally. Share that. What's I forget what it is actually.
Oh well, I mean, 2014, I was in high school and I was listening to a completely different podcast, not about comic books, that Jason Aaron was on. And it was a video podcast, so I recognized his long beard. But that back then, I was not as acquainted with Thor as I am now. And I just remember at the time they said something about that, but I wasn't really paying much attention. And then 2019, when I looked up, basically, if I wanted to read a Thor comic, which one would it be? The internet told me it was this, and I saw that name, Jason Aaron. I thought that sounds familiar. I don't know why. And I was thinking maybe it's because it's just like a generic white guy name, Jake, you know? But then totally. I saw a picture of him, and I thought, oh, it's that guy. And it just completely came full circle.
Yeah, totally. And what
and
are
then
the odds
5 years after that, now I'm actually reading all of it.
Yeah. Because so in prep for this, so you read all of the previous 2 volumes that are included in that as well, if I understand correctly, right?
Oh, I have now, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. That's really cool. And now we're here to talk about The Accursed, which is issues 12 through 18. We got 7 issues ahead of us today. But I guess, as always, we're going to kick off our non-spoiler section by asking, I'll once again toss it to Connor. Jacob, I'll be neglecting you for the early portions of this podcast. Connor, what is Thor the Accursed about?
Well, I mean, there's the main meat of it, which is 5 parts, surrounded by 2 standalone issues. But if you're asking me about the actual main course itself, it's basically, well, I mean, it's non-spoilery, right? Am I saying?
Non-spoiler for now. As non-spoiler as you can be, yeah.
Can I mention details from the films then? If it's non-spoiler?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Okay, well, imagine Thor the Dark World, but good. That's what it is.
Taking a drink.
And a D&D campaign.
I'm taking a drink, son of a bitch. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a proper Malekith story. And it actually uses the character in ways that are really interesting and took me by surprise. And yeah, it's different to the God Butcher. Actually, if you've read that, it's different in that it does different things with Thor, and it has different challenges. And I don't know if I can say much more than that.
Totally fair. No. Yeah, totally. I think if we're going to talk about the differences, I think, we can talk about spoilers from the last 2 volumes, of course. I would say whereas Jason Aaron very much opens the floodgates right out with his run with the first 2 volumes, with God Butcher and God Bomb, with a very different kind of Thor story, very much the kind of Thor story that would grab a more casual Marvel fan's attention. I think this is thankfully, I think a much more traditional Thor story. You're fighting Dark Elves, you're fighting Malekith. These are familiar names, these are familiar characters. Whereas obviously Gore, was not familiar. There's a whole time travel plot back in the God Butcher that was totally different from anything featured in here. And yeah, it's the run, I think, very much more settling into itself and settling into what Aaron will be doing moving forward. Before, of course, after the next volume, then punching us in the face again. But that is, of course, a story for a later time. Jacob, let's actually get you talking on this. Sorry, it's guest. I wanted to get guest opinions.
Yeah, I know how it is.
Yeah.
Second episode in a row with a guest, and possibly the second of 3, I imagine, because I have a feeling I know what's coming up.
You are so confident about this next episode guest. I
can't wait to be wrong.
It's going to be so funny. Yeah, tell us a little about the Accursed. What do you think, as non-spoilery as you can be?
Here's the thing. I think this is the weakest of the 3 volumes so far, but it's still great.
I don't think anyone would disagree that it is overall a step down from God Butcher.
Some of it is because God Butcher and God Bomb just came out of the gate swinging, whereas
so fucking good. Oh yeah,
Aaron is. A couple of things happen here. First off, Jason Aaron loses on he largely loses Esad Ribic on art. Ribic still does
covers.
A few of the most of the covers. There are a couple that he doesn't do. And that's kind of a double-edged sword. The art that replaces it is quite good, but it gives it a very different vibe to what Ribic was going for. I'd also argue I found the bookend issues the most fascinating in terms of what they're doing. All 7 issues of this volume, in a way, is set up because Jason Aaron is going to be the Thor writer for 2 Omnis worth comics. 2, I think, very big Omnis worth of comics.
Very much so. We are, however, also approaching the end of the first sort of segment of it when it is Thor, the God of Thunder, as the title name.
But that's also because Marvel likes to reboot their books every 20 issues.
I do also think the reset to #1 coming up soon in the run is obviously for a very specific purpose. I think we all kind of know what's coming because Thor films exist and everybody kind of knows the big controversial thing that Jason Aaron.
I was gonna say everyone knows how there is one controversial thing that this run did, and let's be honest, that sadly casts a shadow over the run that it probably shouldn't, because I trust Jason Aaron to do that very well.
And he does. He does it very well. More of that obviously at a later time. But shall we get into some Twitter questions?
Yeah, let's get into the Twitter questions.
My favorite website for the smartest people.
Absolutely. Twitter. That is its name.
Can we just get the bits over with, please?
First, actually, sorry. Before Twitter questions, we do have one from Discord. Our friend Andrew, friend of the podcast, says, "Do you think you'll ever read Frog Thor for this podcast?" I meant to look up what this was when you sent it, Andrew, and I totally forgot to. I don't know what Frog Thor is, to be perfectly honest, so I can't say he's on the schedule right now. But maybe someday. Maybe someday when I know what he is.
I'm doing a quick. Okay, that's. Okay, so it's a character called Simon Walterson, which is. I hope that's supposed to be a reference to Walt Simonson.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Who created him?
Hang on. I'm going off of He's created by Walt Simonson.
Okay, all right,
in,
that makes sense at least.
in
Okay.
1985.
Yeah. Okay.
At one point was called Puddle Gulp, which
Okay.
might be a Chronicles of Narnia reference.
Okay. Oh yeah, Puddle. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Knowing what I know about both Simonsons, that's
Yeah, that's
possible.
very possible. Yeah.
Apparently, he
Hey,
also appears in the Mighty Thor 700, which I believe is part of this run.
I believe so. Yeah.
So technically, Andrew, yes, I
I
guess.
guess so. Yeah. Yeah. Moving on to actual Twitter now, though. In reference to the fact that Connor is going to be on this episode, our friend Jamie at Jamie_season7 says, "Did you tell him RTD wrote it?"
No.
Thankfully, I didn't have to bribe him to be on here. It was just as far as I can tell.
Asked nicely.
We did ask nicely, and it went well. So yeah.
I already read probably maybe 3 issues 5 years ago, but then I don't know why I stopped. But I started back from beginning again.
Nice. Let's see. Jamie also says this might be the weakest part of the run for me. Still great though. I personally think the last volume of God of Thunder, last season Midgard, is a little weaker than this. But I do still really like the Accursed. We've already kind of covered, I guess, why it's probably why it kind of seems weaker, especially in comparison to the 2 volumes that came before it. But no, I still think the Accursed is great. It's a really great time, and yeah, I don't know. Trying to find other. I think Jamie has something else. Yes, Jamie says. Oh no, that was when I just read it off. Never mind. However, we do, of course, as always, have our submissions of images.
I hate that this is still a thing.
Connor, I have to ask. Are you aware of the Doctor Who joke with this podcast?
I can't remember if I have heard it.
A while ago, a long time ago, our good friend Dylan replied to one of our Green Lantern promotion tweets with a picture of the pterodactyls from Doctor Who's The Visitation standing around a Green Lantern with
Yes, I do remember
caption.
that.
Yes. So ever since then, it has spiraled into people continually submitting Doctor Who images with a caption vaguely related to a comic that we're covering, asking if they are the character that we are covering. So our first from Jamie's is a picture of Christopher Eccleston as the Ninth Doctor with the caption Malekith ?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, naturally, obviously.
I mean,
Yeah, right.
To turn this into actually a fun discussion, after reading this, I think Chris Eccleston could have been an amazing Malekith if,
yeah, he could have been really good if they just let him play the actual fucking character.
Yeah, or if, Thor the Dark World had anything going for it, because that movie is the weakest of the Thor films.
It is not, first off.
It is.
There's only one good Thor film. So
this is also true.
Saying that one is the worst of the 4 isn't exactly.
Yeah, but the other 2 bad ones at
hit.
least have a director with some sort of vision and flair, even if it's not a particularly well executed vision and flair.
I feel like Dark World is at least competent enough. I feel like I don't know. It's competent enough that it feels safe to me. It is a safe MCU movie.
No.
It is. It very much is. But no, I mean, and also Dark World does that weird thing where Malekith has to earn his comic book look by getting half of his face fucked up. It's really weird.
And actually, that's just. Do we think that's because The Dark Knight did it with specifically the way The Dark Knight did Two-Face?
Maybe. Well, no. The Two-Face thing is literally just a Two-Face origin thing. I think more to we have the modern day equivalent of Madame Web having to earn her blindness as a character and getting it by the end of the movie.
Also, that's also I don't know. That feels. What else just feels kind of abler.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Let's make our disabled characters earn their disability.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird.
Because that's.
Yeah. We do also have a submission from our friend Kian at Kian the Quark saying Odin with a picture of, I want to say, a guy from The Girl Who Died, right?
Yeah,
Is that
the guy discount Brian Blessed?
Does he actually like call himself Odin in the episode? I
Yeah, he
forget.
does.
He
He
does. Okay,
does.
that's right.
It has been years since I've seen the girl who died. Any Peter Capaldi Doctor Who, honestly. Um,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
Norse mythology, Clara.
We do also have another submission from Kian with the caption "Frost Giants?" and it's just Ice Warriors from the Curse of Peladon, which I
which
great, cool,
yeah,
awesome.
I
appreciate.
think Kian's stretching a little bit.
I appreciate that one more than the Malekith one. I'll say.
I think
One just seems rude.
I think Tom Hiddleston could play a good Ice Warrior.
I can't tell if you're joking or not.
No.
No, Jacob, don't say that. Don't give him what he wants. Let's see. Kian also submits. Can you please make Jacob suffer by watching Love and Thunder again? My personal response to that is just no. But it did start a little thread between him and our friend English Giraffe at English_Giraffe. How about a 24-hour run of nothing but Love and Thunder to show Jacob it's a cinematic masterpiece and stands alongside Citizen Kane? Kian says, I feel like we have to make it 48 hours. And English Giraffe says, that has to be 96 hours to commemorate it being the fourth film in this quadrilogy masterpiece. God fucking damn it.
You know, I don't hate Love and Thunder. It has like some bits that I like.
refuse to watch it.
You haven't seen it?
Nope, I refuse to watch it.
Here's the thing. I do think the ending is very good. Other than that, kind of.
Yeah, but that means I'd have to go through the other whatever percent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The ending is so good though. I really do appreciate the ending of Love and Thunder. But otherwise, it's not worth your time.
Really isn't. I mean, Kristen Bale's good in it. Natalie Portman is really good in it.
Yeah.
Even though they refuse to actually make this focus on Natalie Portman when she really should be the lead of that film.
Yeah. And while I do like what it does with her in the end, I do feel like it should have been more of a passing of the torch kind of film.
I saw the trailer when it came out, and I thought, no, I do not want a single thing to do with that film.
It's the terrible problem if it gets close to what Waititi does really well. But I don't even think Waititi is interested in telling that story.
I forget, Connor. You're a Ragnarok is bad truther, right?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, good.
not as much as you are. I think it has a few redeeming elements, but
ooh, man,
I would say it's more bad than it's good.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Jacob, isn't it like your second favorite Thor film?
Yes.
Again, still very low bar.
Mind you, I give it a 5 out of 10. Like,
I mean, I'd say second favorite Thor film is not a high bar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it is not a high bar. No, it is.
It is exactly one good Thor film, and it's a great film. I love.
I really like the first one, and then everything after that can just die. I don't care.
Yeah.
Totally. Bring back Kenneth Branagh.
And to be fair,
that is what makes the rest of them bad. Like, they lost Kenneth Branagh, who actually like had a fucking direction.
Also, though, the entire reason why I sought out this comic in the first place is because it was one of the only examples where I felt like there was so much left on the table. So, I've gotten my fix with a lot of other Marvel and even DC properties, but with Thor, it's like I've been given blue balls and I needed something to quench that thirst.
And what shit luck that this exact run is the one they decided to adapt into Love and Thunder.
Yeah. And there's bits of the God Butcher and Ragnarok as well, which pisses me off.
Yeah. But, and also, like, the thing with Love and Thunder, and I know you haven't seen it, but like, I don't know how much you care about spoilers or anything, but like, he kills exactly one god on screen in that whole movie. And it's the first scene of the film.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously we were allowed to say spoiler stuff for previous issues at this point.
Yeah.
That whole scene where he's imprisoned in chains and is is suffering by blood and then breaks free of those chains. It's very similar, only in a literal sense, to the first scene of Ragnarok, except tone-wise, it could not be more different.
Yeah, and then see, but Connor, does Jason Aaron's Thor have a needle drop? Is it that good that it has a needle drop? Come on. Do you read quality Thor stories if they don't have a shit fucking needle drop?
Anyway. When I was reading The God Butcher, the first thing I thought is this needs more like Flight of the Conchords and Brotown humor. That's exactly what would make that a good comic.
Exactly. What isn't like the entire soundtrack of Love and Thunder just Guns N' Roses? Like every single song they use in that is Guns N' Roses.
Probably.
I mean, they got Michael Giacchino to write like an original score for Love and Thunder.
Did you just say Giacchino?
Is that how you say it?
Giacchino.
I always said Giacchino. Don't,
dude.
Yeah, they got Michael Giacchino to write a score for that film, and it's how do I say this? Not hit. I've never really heard a Giacchino score sound generic until that film.
Yeah. That's it. I will say, if you want like some genuinely great Giacchino MCU work, he both directed and scored Werewolf by Night, and it's really good actually. I really like Werewolf by Night. Anyway, we do still have one more Twitter question that I keep neglecting to get to. From our friend Rules Panda at Joey Can Read This, best ad on Twitter. Any thoughts on Jason Aaron's recent Scrooge McDuck one shot? Have you seen Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes and its take on Malekith? The best portrayal in my opinion. I have been meaning to check out Earth's Mightiest Heroes for a long ass time, and I just have never gotten around to it. As far as the Scrooge McDuck one shot, I have not checked it out. I apologize.
I know Aaron's going to be writing the new DC Absolute.
He's writing Superman. Absolute Superman.
Yeah, Absolute Superman.
Which I'm very excited for. Seems to be very much taking a more alien approach to the character, which I'm very excited for. So, yeah. Well, I think that does it for Twitter questions. Finally,
for Twitter questions.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna get into spoilers.
We got through that unscathed.
We did. We're okay so far, I think. We're gonna get into spoilers now. If you're not sticking around for spoilers, as always, you can skip to the end of the episode to find out what we're covering next time on the podcast. We're getting back into some DC books, and you can see the reveal there and see Jacob make his very confident guess and find out the results of that.
I know here's the thing. Your attempts to be neutral.
What, Jacob? I've never said I'm a neutral party in all this.
Your attempts to be neutral. I am just make me even more confident that I got it right.
Okay, sure, whatever. As always, if you're not sticking around for spoilers with us, our link trees for socials and everything will be in the description below, as well as Amazon links to the books we cover this time and are covering next time on the podcast. So that'll all be there. And I think that about does it. Consider this your official spoiler warning as we jump into Thor: The Accursed with Thor: God of Thunder number 12. I gotta open it up in my complete collection here.
Yes, number 12.
I haven't actually done
it. Yeah, it does.
There it is.
I'm glad Marvel put these out in these nice thicker trades.
Yeah. Well, there's that, and I forget, Connor, what's the collection you have actually called?
That's a great question that I will find out the answer to when it just says Thor: God of Thunder 2012. That's it.
Oh, damn. Okay. Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
All right then. And it just collects the first 25 issues straight?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, cool. Nice. Because I think the ones that me and Jacob have been reading from is the complete collection, which is split into 4 volumes, I think? Five volumes, and the first one goes through the first 18 issues. So
and then it starts getting weird because you get
multiple titles,
multiple books.
Yeah, it happens.
Anyway,
also fair warning to those listening. This is once again still within that time frame of books that I just kind of marathon straight a few weeks ago, and if my memory is sketchy at all, that is
your memory is going to be so sketchy.
That is exactly the reason. So,
Yeah. So this first issue, it's all set up, but it reminds me of A Christmas Carol.
mm.
Like,
Well, it's not even like really set up for like this particular collection. It's mostly set up for the rest of the run.
yeah, and has to establish some very important things.
One thing in particular that is obviously going to be more important going forward. Um, yeah,
But it feels like it's trying to deal with the fallout from God Bomb.
yeah.
Like,
This definitely feels more like an epilogue to God Bomb than it does a prologue to the Accursed. Because once again, we're sort of focusing on the three Thors of that story. You know, young Thor, present day Thor, and old Thor.
it does make me also feel like Aaron's not done with this three different Thors idea. Uh,
You would be right about that.
I mean, it's a great idea, past, present, and future.
Yeah.
Let's evoke a Christmas Carol. Uh, but also let's evoke Thor's. How do I say this nicely? Problems, like his connection to humanity, which is just a fascinating aspect of the character, if I'm going to be honest.
Mhm.
Mm.
Because the idea of like doing it's any sort of fiction that tries to do a pantheon of gods is definitely real. It seems to have this very this varied look at sort of the gods and their relationship with humanity,
Mhm.
and just by Thor by its very nature has to do it from the gods' perspective instead of the more typical humanities perspective.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because this issue opens on just a couple like establishing pages of Thor interacting with humanity, but then kind of like goes straight for the throat with Thor going to visit a prisoner that he just seems to have formed a genuine friendship with over time. Um, as far as I understand it, like this wasn't a previously established character or anything. This is just something that Jason Aaron just wants to show as part of his Thor's characterization. It's a really great scene. I'm really loving this.
I mean,
Um,
I wrote in my notes. So, I mean, bringing up the Christmas Carol, a Christmas Carol connection. There's this moment in a Christmas Carol that's not usually adapted in most like film adaptations, largely for budget reasons. During the sequence with the Ghost of Christmas Present, where Christmas Present is showing Scrooge Christmas being celebrated around the world in all these different situations, and reflecting on just sort of the human spirit shining through hardship, through just through as much hardship as possible. And that's kind of this entire issue. If that
mm,
makes sense. Uh, that and just kind of hitting you with several gut punches. Um, Again, Thor showing a lot of kindness to uh, this prisoner
I
who's
mean,
going.
who's on death row? Like, yeah,
Uh,
he's going to die. That's where the scene ends. Is him being led away by these guards, and it's fucked up. But it's like it's this really compassionate side of Thor that I just love seeing here. Love this line here from the prisoner. Who says, "Why the hell couldn't I have met a god like you when I was still young and foolish?" Um, just fucking beautiful, and it's the last thing he says
Mm.
before he's led away. Um, oh my god, gorgeous stuff. Just love that.
then you
Um,
get the immediate next page, which is a very specific interaction of people of different faiths, um,
yeah.
specifically Christianity and Buddhism. Uh, and that's it's interesting. It feels like Aaron wants Thor to very much be the champion of humanity,
Mm.
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah,
while
which shows
also
what he really
trying
cares
to
about.
yeah. Um,
Mhm.
while also riding this line of not wanting to be disrespectful to any to real world religions,
Mm-hmm.
outside of, well, the obvious ones to be disrespectful towards. Um, Hi, the Westboro Baptist Church. Uh, Weird that 2 episodes in a row where I've had to bring up the Westboro Baptist Church in a
Find a way.
very weird
Okay,
context.
I need you to find a way to keep the streak up now, though. Whatever the next episode is, I need you
No,
to
I'm
find a
not
way.
going to be able to do that. I don't think.
You might.
You
You
are
never
a
know.
Thor enabler.
But yeah. Anyway. Fuck. Yeah. We do. Then go to what, a shield helicarrier for a cadet's ball, which is just a fun setup. I do like that. But we have Thor here mingling with more of humanity. Kind of hitting on this one girl here, Rosalind Solomon, who is who he is trying to get something out of. I'm actually starting to blank on this already. God damn it! It's too early for
He's
this.
just flirting. He's flirting, and
He is
she's an
flirting, but
environmental scientist.
yeah, but
Uh,
he's gonna do something with that later, of course. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm right.
actually, that's something I will say is the amount of romance he has in these 7 issues is quite a record.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thor fucks. um, hel- helps when you when you're Chris Hemsworth, I guess. But yeah, we go then to Oklahoma, where we introduced to this run at long last the one and only Jane Foster,
Yes.
who it turns out is a cancer patient, um, and is just catching up with an old friend in the form of Thor here. And I think I just really want both your opinions on this. Jacob, of course, I mean, you've seen Love and Thunder already, so you kind of knew this was an element of Jane's story at some point.
I knew this was coming, and I know where this at least partially goes because it's the one. It's one of the few things that it's probably the one thing that everybody knows about this run.
Mhm.
Um, because of the right wing outrage machine. Uh, but I think what's interesting here is Thor and Jane as exes that like still talk to each other
Mhm.
is fascinating.
Well, yeah, because Jane is with somebody else at this point who is very clearly jealous of the very hot god talking to his woman, and then he takes her to the fucking moon, just to flex, I guess.
Yep.
Um, but they share this really nice moment where they look at the Earth together. They're on the moon. It's really sweet. You do. I think Aaron really nails the whole playing these two characters as people with a history, but people who are still able to be friends in this way, even through Jane's hardship at the moment.
I thought the dialogue was excellent during this whole Jane Foster part of this. It
Yeah,
was I think this was some of the best stuff in this run,
yeah,
this
yeah.
whole chapter.
It's really great, yeah, and it's only like a 5-page scene altogether from meeting
Yeah.
Jane to the whole moon segment, and it is just a really fucking solid 5 pages. Yeah, it's awesome. We do then go back to that one shield agent that Thor was talking to before. Again, I'm actually blanking on the purpose of this right now.
So in Antarctica, there is a whale graveyard,
Okay, yes.
and there are multiple whale graveyards around planet Earth. And that's something that's going to be, I think, possibly relevant later.
Which actually does kind of lead into uh, our last sort of last sort of scene of this first issue with we go back to old Thor in Asgard many millennia from now. We get a little tease there at the end, which actually isn't relevant to the rest of the volume, and is more, again, mostly rest of the run stuff. But still cool to see here. Cool to have a nice little epilogue as to where we left old Thor in the last 2 volumes. But
And it ends with it's this whole of the Earth's going to be destroyed at some point in the future. Classic comic book tease of
yeah, oh god, yeah.
tease of danger. And I have a feeling, that it's going to go, that Aaron's going to do it well and make it work without feeling like a reset button, because
Mhm.
obviously,
Well, he even did kind of a similar thing with the God Butcher arc, where it prophesized this horrible end for Asgard, and we kind of undid that by the end in I think a satisfactory way. Um, so that's all I really offer on that for now. But yeah, I guess we'll move into our next issue now with Thor, the God
Before
of
we do
Thunder.
that, I just wanted to point out one line I thought was hilarious.
Mhm.
And that is when he says, "This new boyfriend, Walter, son of Bob, seller of real estate."
Yes, I do love that. I think that is great. Yeah, lovely stuff. But
Yep.
yeah, that brings us into Thor: The God of Thunder, number 13, which actually is features the cover of the collection, The Accursed. Great fucking cover. Love that one. But yeah, let's get
Listen,
into it.
Ribic still does a lot of these covers, and they
Yeah,
are amazing.
so good. Oh my god, yeah.
So
Um,
this entire story is
I know we made the comparison a lot of times throughout you reading this, Jacob. But come on, this is a
D and
D&D
D
game.
campaign.
It's a D&D
It is a
campaign. It's
this is and like something clicked for me, and my brain was like, okay, why didn't they try to have this vibe in any of like the Thor films?
I don't know. For
Because
some reason, aside from the first film, the Thor films are really afraid of an ensemble piece when Chris Hemsworth is their lead. Because like they do the whole
I mean,
Warriors three thing in the first film. Um, and like then
this one's
they
also going for a pseudo Shakespearean thing because you put Kenneth Branagh in the director's chair, and that's what you're probably going to get.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. But no, it's like they have that sort of ensemble piece, and then the Warriors three get pushed to the side, and then literally just killed off throughout the rest of the films, mostly
Yeah,
off
it's
screen.
got this. I feel like the films also have this weird thing of having to connect to the Avengers too much, and that holds back what they can do outside of Earth.
Yeah, definitely. And like having Thor be part of that larger team of the Avengers kind of I think made them afraid to let him
I
have
mean,
more of an ensemble cast on his own.
that's arguably one of the reasons why a lot of people like the Guardians of the Galaxy films, because they're not pinned down by having to connect to the Avengers as much as the
Yeah,
Thor
yeah.
films do.
Hmm.
it's also
Um,
because James Gunn is also one of those directors who's kind of allowed to do whatever the hell he wants.
yeah, I mean, you'd be a dumbass to not let him. But yeah, so on this is the start of like the main arc that is the bulk of this volume. It's 5 issues, and yeah, it's got this really great classic fantasy ensemble piece vibe to it. And actually, like getting into it, I do love this sort of prologue scene with the dark elves. Sort of going to Malekith himself, and Malekith sort of freeing himself from this pit that he lies within. Really great opening scene. Really does a great job of setting the tone for the bulk of the rest of the volume.
There are also giant spiders.
Giant spiders.
Every
Love me
every
some
every
giant
book needs giant spiders. And again, giant spiders and dark elves. That's just. I mean, obviously,
spiders.
I think that's something in Norse. I am not the. When it comes to mythologies, I'm more of an expert on Greek mythology.
I was just gonna point the listeners in the direction of our Wonder Woman episodes.
Yes,
But
yes, where I can go on for days about like, here's what myth is being invoked.
I
Whereas for
like I like
Thor,
I like being as in the dark with this as you are, as far as the
oh, I'm not
mythology goes.
entirely in the dark. I just,
Shut the fuck up.
you know,
I've got a question actually. Um, is the reason why the Dark Elves aren't blue in the film is because they don't want to confuse them with the Frost Giants from the first one?
Maybe
maybe,
that's very
but
Yeah,
then,
possible.
and then maybe they didn't want to like infringe on D&D copyright and make them like purple-ish.
Yeah.
'Cause
I also just really hate those designs in the Dark World. Like I don't know.
yeah. They don't. They look like not powerful is the word I would use.
Yeah. Well, also they all have like those weird fucking masks on in the film, and I feel like at least in this case, like the showing their faces allows them to be like actual characters, allows them to express themselves and like
Yeah,
be more interesting in that way. They're not just faceless soldiers.
that's right.
So yeah. But anyway, so yeah, obviously, comic is better. I don't think we're shocking anyone with that take.
Yeah, by far, this comic is much better.
The comic introduces Malekith with more personality in his first like actual page.
I mean, just look at that full page of him, like with the long, messed up hair and like the chains
Yes,
around him. Like, could you imagine Eccleston like performing a scene like that? Like, actually getting to play the
amazing.
character proper. Like, he could fucking pull that off. He could totally pull that off.
Oh, I mean, The Accursed as an actual film would be amazing to watch.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I get some of the choices. Like, I get a lot of the MCU didn't want to go full fantasy in a lot of ways, like into a certain vibe. Because let's be honest, fantasy filmmaking in the modern day has always been this tricky subject to get right.
Well, it's also been
Mainly,
kind of completely stomped to the ground with the existence of Lord of the Rings. Like, if it doesn't feel like Lord of the Rings, then their studios are afraid that people won't buy it.
Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And fantasy is, don't get me wrong, Lord of the Rings and A Song of Ice and Fire are amazing. Game of Thrones is also good to a point, and then um,
And then it's not. It's very not good.
I,
and,
I,
and
I,
then and
I
then it,
still have never seen it.
and then it can't deal with partially can't deal with the fact that dear George R. R. Martin as a writer let things get away from him. Fantasy is like wide and
That's
varied.
because he's a gardener. He's a gardener who takes his time.
Look,
but no,
we know he's we I have confirmation that he is actually working on Winds of Winter. He's actually working on it. If it's going to come out, who fucking knows?
No, but he's way too preoccupied with all that lovely food in New Mexico he always talks about.
I also know very little about George R. R. Martin. I'm assuming I should be glad of this.
He's a funny
Honestly,
laugh.
despite everything, he seems like a cool dude. Like,
Well, that's nice of
who
them.
just can't finish his damn book.
His laugh is just it's hysterical. The way he goes, it's like you just know he's a fantasy writer. The way he laughs.
That's a fucked up thing to say, but I get what you mean. But no, you're right, Jacob. Fantasy is such a versatile genre, and case in point, getting back into this, we after our sort of opening Malekith scene, we go to Thor, and we see him having dinner and drinking mead and surrounded by friends. Actually, speaking of the Warriors
Classic
3 as
D and
well, we do get
D
the Warriors
party
3.
opening.
Yeah.
Classic D&D party opening.
Well, if you're about to write out the entire current existing party, sure. But yeah, we see a dark elf here, sort of. We see a dark elf here giving a warning, and Thor and the Warriors 3 sort of rushing into battle, or going to rush into battle, ready to, and following the trail of supposed dark elves nearby, and eventually.
I'd love for you to attempt to say the land of the dark elves.
Jacob, I had a way of saying it in my head back when I read it a couple weeks back, but I have lost that now.
I want you to try. I want you to try.
I feel like I'm being pressured right now. Jacob, how is it pronounced, Jacob?
I think it's Svartalfheim.
Okay, I was right there actually. I think that's
I believe most of these are said kind of how they're spelled, or
okay.
there's like 20 different pronunciations, and none of them are right because Norse mythology isn't one mythology. Isn't a like group of Viking was a job, so and we don't have a bunch of primary sources because um well the Catholic Church mainly early Christian expansion. The mythological sources of a lot of things are always fascinating to see what can survive and what can't.
Yeah, I feel like
Usually,
it's one of those words I can only read in a Scandinavian accent.
Yeah, yeah.
I go to Svartalfheim.
But we do go to Svartalfheim and find Malekith eventually, who is threatening a woman, and Thor and Malekith once again being face to face. Malekith it reveals his sort of army of dark elves around him and cuts off this woman's arm and tosses her towards Thor. Him and his other dark elves escaping, and Thor cauterizing the wound. And that is pretty much where the issue ends. Malekith escaping on this white tiger dragon fucking thing that he
It looks
has.
amazing.
My God, I love it. It's so cool. Yeah, it's a great end to an issue. I love that full page at the end there. It looks awesome.
my
One
note
thing I
is
wanted to mention.
Rakshasa meets Chimera.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention is that they establish about Malekith is that he's fully willing to sacrifice his own kin for his own goals, which is very opposed to Thor.
Yeah, yeah.
Thor is very tribalistic. He's like, you protect those who are your friends at all costs.
Mm-hmm. Which is why I neglected to mention in recapping it there. The woman that he was threatening was also a dark elf. So like him sort of cutting off her arm and tossing her there.
And I will say, I think this is probably a good time to bring it up because it's something that gets developed throughout this arc really well. In fantasy, sort of the dark elf idea can often fall into the problem of like the trope of Planet of Hats, where they have one thing and one character trait, and that's it. And I think Aaron does a really good job of making it feel.
I mean, you could
to its
argue
own
that's what
distinct
happens in the
culture.
film, is that he's only about vengeance and that's it.
I mean, yeah, the film is bad, but I'm also just talking about like the use of dark elves in the wider fantasy space. Like, Dungeons and Dragons is famous for being really bad at doing that until recently, mainly with wider exposure and more creatives entering the space outside of a certain bubble. Because dark elves are usually portrayed as the evil elves that live underground. They have similar roots in terms of fantasy to orcs, mainly because Tolkien, the influence of J.R. Tolkien on fantasy is a lot.
Mm-hmm. And
like,
sometimes has unfortunate consequences.
Has unfortunate consequences that were at least partially intentional. Also, Aaron invokes the Wild Hunt here, which is interesting. Not what the Wild Hunt is. I go with it because you're telling a crazy fantasy story with an utter madman villain. Like, half of my notes on Mathith are, he's just an utter madman villain. This is like somehow in a very different flavor of madman to Gore.
Yeah, that is another really good thing that Aaron does show off here, is that like Malekith being his second sort of big bad in the run so far. He is a very different character. Gore, in a way, Gore felt, despite Gore probably being more powerful, Gore felt more fragile, let's say. His ideals felt more fragile because of his backstory, whereas Malekith is.
You're also just making the argument as to why power scaling villains is dumb.
Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's there are different ways for villains to be threatening than just making each one more powerful than the last. So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, let's actually get into Thor: God of Thunder number 14 though, where we sort of pick up here. Let's get our D&D party together.
Let's get our D&D party together. Let's also do some regicide.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit of regicide as a treat.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. I mean, you can't not convince me that Aaron's not a fan. Aaron's not a fan of of Peter Jackson's version of the Lord of the Rings because the elf dwarf interactions are pure Legolas and Gimli.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Important distinction though, these being dark elves, but the interactions are fairly similar. But essentially, yeah, these the dark elves that are not aligned with Malekith are contacting other races in the Nine Realms, getting them involved in their fight, contacting the dwarves here first. We do then catch back up with Malekith, though, back in Svartalfheim. There we go. I can do that. But we catch back up with him. We see him with his these like hellhound dog looking things. God, I love them too. We see him killing more of his kind. Thor then joins these like talks with the rest of his people about getting this sort of party together.
So we also got that great reveal. Malekith is a sorcerer, so it's like, we're on a precarious branch. Well, I can just float while
Yeah, I do
you
love that
both
visual
fall
of
to your
like
death.
the green magic disc things that he's standing on. I do like that, and my God, that panel directly after of him just laughing maniacally. I love that, so good. But actually, we do also get to see Thor's mother here for a little bit, which is very nice.
I'm pretty sure Odin's dead at this point, right? Or
No,
is he in a
I
sleep?
I don't know actually.
Well, Odin's not around.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's not here at
Anthony
the
Hopkins is a busy man.
Anthony Hopkins is and Brian Blessed was climbing Everest.
Here's the thing, though. Whenever there's like narration in one of these, I keep bringing them in Anthony Hopkins' voice. Just
I mean,
I don't know.
that's just because
It's
Anthony
because
Hopkins.
it's because of the way of like that those MCU Thor films open, the first two at least, like with those Hopkins narrations. Then I'm like, that's just a narration in a Thor comic. But yeah,
And
um,
Anthony Hopkins is just a fantastic narrator.
yeah, exactly. Read me the phone book, Anthony Hopkins. But yeah, so let's get our party together. We have Sir Ivory Honeyshot of the Light Elves of Alfheim. Good God, what a name!
This is a D&D party. Like,
Yep.
this is the most D&D. I have DM'd for this D&D party.
We have Screwbeard, son of No Ears, son of Head Wound of the Dynamite Dwarves of Nidavellir. Goddamn. We have Ogmunder, Dragelvlad, Vinsuvius, the what would that be? The 17th of the Long Stomp tribe from the hills of Jotunheim. And lastly, Ud, the troll. who
The troll.
I know he's supposed to be a troll. He looks like a bugbear to me. I'm sorry.
I mean, that's this actually goes back to sort of what is the image of a troll in the pop culture sphere. One of
Yeah.
those things where there isn't actually a singular
Well, yeah, there's
one.
not really like a consensus on it. So yeah,
Like
different sides of
my first
fantasy.
exposure to a troll was Harry Potter,
Oh yeah,
which
Yeah, same.
that makes
yeah,
sense. Yeah.
which is again not necessarily a good depiction because
Mhm.
it's just a giant uh, menace for our heroes vaguely in
Yeah.
one book.
And like a D&D troll is like a totally different thing. That looks more
Totally
like I
different.
think what most people would call like a swamp hag almost. Um but yeah, every fantasy has its own sort of version of a troll, and this is the one here. So it's fine. And also joining our party is Lady Waziria of the Dark Elves of Svartalfheim, who is the woman that Malekith was threatening. Cut off her arm. She grows back her arm via stick, which is cool as hell.
She's the. I mean, my notes are the party druid.
And now she joins their quest, and we have our party. We are on our way, and as the caption says, one ride on the Rainbow Bridge later, we are arriving in Nidavellir, going to meet with the dwarves. That is, of course, there. We would if they weren't being massacred currently by the Dark Elves. We get a great fight scene here. Thor comes face to face with Malekith at one point. Really great stuff. Really great fight scene here. And I love. This is where we start to introduce it into the story. I think where we give Thor this really hard edge to his character in this story, where he, I would dare say, is prejudiced against dark elves just on instinct.
I mean, yeah, and I don't think the subversion that we are eventually going to have is entirely accurate as to, like, I think some of it is Thor genuinely being prejudiced. Because Thor as a character is kind of designed to be flawed. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of the point. Like, and examining those flaws are largely interesting. We also have an elf gunslinger. Let me say that again.
It's so cool.
We have an elf
named Honey Shot. What a great name!
Shot.
Come on, it's awesome. Yeah, love this. Yeah, after this this great fight scene, we get this haunting page that sort of ends the issue of Thor surrounded by the hanging heads of dark elves. Fucking beautiful, beautiful last page. With the line, "We ride until Malekith is dead, or we are." Oh my god, beautiful stuff. I'll say, based on what I remember, having read this a few weeks ago, okay, we're in spoiler territory. There's a twist coming with Thor in this story that you've already kind of alluded to.
There's a twist coming.
Yeah. As to how early this begins to happen, looking back on it, it's probably about here. But also, there's a twist on that twist as well that I'll admit I don't entirely vibe with. I don't think it's particularly great. And obviously, we'll talk more on that later. But I think it's worth kind of at least alluding to now as we get into Thor: God of Thunder number 15.
The twist itself is something that happened in issue 13. Like, is when it was established as happening. And we start seeing it here. And it's well foreshadowed, honestly.
I think it's more the twist on that twist that happens not long after that I'm just not entirely a fan of.
We'll talk about that. That's one where I'm not sure where I stand on it, honestly. Because also, the next 2 issues of this 5-issue story is a big chase, like a very good chase, like really well done. Like, this podcast in the past has discussed story structure and how serialized formats are tricky beasts that you have to be able to really make work in terms of what you've got. And Jason Aaron has 5 issues here. He makes them work. Like, the 5-issue format is almost the perfect length for a story like this. Even if there's some stuff that I think doesn't quite work, mainly because
it certainly does still have its issues. But I think you're right. Like in that he does sort of at least like nail what the structure should be. We don't like we have our core group of heroes together here. But none of them, aside from Thor, are actually present in the first issue. Or sorry, Thor and of course our Dark Elf. But like none of them are really present in the first issue. Like the first issue is just to establish our threat. Second issue is just to establish our heroes. And now by the end of that issue, we're actually on our way. And this is where we're actually like in the middle of the chase now. And I think the structure just really works. I think Aaron has at least that nailed down. Anyway, we open the issue on Alfheim. We're here in the land of the elves. Love
like any good land that's supposed to be Fey touched. It's fucking weird, guys. Like,
yeah.
I want to say, in this issue specifically, I think the artwork is really strong for a lot of the pages.
Yeah. This one is done by. This entire arc is done by Ron. Is done by Ron Garney, Eves Forcina doing the colors uh, for everything except issue 17.
I
17, yeah, 17
I
is a super.
particularly love page 6, which is that big white background with all the stuff happening on it.
Yeah, because that's where everything goes.
Oh yeah, that one. I do love that.
Everything goes weird, and we have to.
There's
I love when
there's not even really like a panel structure to that page. It's just here are the like events happening and like there. I love how I think what's really impressive about the art here by Ron Garney is that um you can tell like the order you're able to read it in, despite there being like no like panel structure to the page.
it
Well,
is. It is a
to
very structured chaos, which
Yeah.
to be fair with me, it's easier because I'm doing it digitally and my app tells me what to
Oh,
read.
because
guided view. Yeah.
guided views are great.
Guided view is truly one of the greatest things we have in comics right now, and I think we kind of take it for granted.
Yeah, I use guided view. It basically just zooms in on what I need to read,
Yeah.
and then it shows the full page at the end.
Yeah. Guided view is fantastic. I'm so glad. I think pretty much every major comics reading app, because it's all sort of derived from what used to be Comixology. Yeah, I think they all sort of like do that now, which is lovely. I love that it's there.
There was a period when Comixology was initially bought out by Amazon where they took it away, and
Did they really?
early when we were doing one shots, so
Oh, damn.
there were a couple of Superman and Brave and the Bold one shots that were very fun for me to read because I had to physically zoom in.
Oh, is that when they first switched to the Kindle app?
Yeah, and it
Okay,
was.
but it's there now though, isn't it?
Oh, it's there now. It's there now.
Okay, gotcha.
It's just. I don't love when companies take away features that are a staple and usually important for accessibility things. Because
Wow,
accessibility is important.
what a what a topic to be having right now as Doctor Who fans. Um,
I don't know what you're
uh,
talking about.
I don't
I
know what
have
you're talking
no
about either
idea.
at all. No, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, we're on the hunt. He's here in Alfheim. What I do actually like about this one is this issue we mostly kind of take as a breather up until the end of. But we do kind of have a breather here as our party begins to settle down here. We go into a tavern at one point and we get this sort of drinking competition between Thor and our giant friend here. Um, it's really fun. It's fun to see, but then I love this great sort of introspective moment that comes after it with where Thor just kind of steps outside and monologues to himself for like 2 pages straight. It's really good.
He's
Um,
monologuing to Mjolnir.
he is. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I do love that. Oh,
I mean,
it's so good.
of course, he's going to monologue to the Hammer. The Hammer is his only friend.
And
Um,
then, despite the fact that the lady Dark Elf catches him talking to his own hammer, which is absolutely absurd, he still gets a kiss from her.
Yeah. Thor fucks. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I love the positioning of Thor as this leader of this party. This party that is, let's be honest, not cohesive.
Mhm.
That's kind of the
And
point.
Thor is a fucking mess right now. So like he is clearly not cut out to be the leader.
He is
Um,
both angry at having to fight Malekith,
mhm,
also trying to deal with the fact that his ex girlfriend has cancer. Like that's the
yeah.
undercurrent to this whole thing, uh,
Mhm,
very subtly. And honestly, the events of God Butcher and God Bomb took it out of him.
yeah.
Like
And he's drunk right now.
that. Alcohol just makes things worse.
Yes, tried to
Just
outdrink a giant.
Exactly.
try to outdrink Thor.
But yeah,
Who's
I keep forgetting her name. What is the elf girl's name? It starts with an M. Maz something. I don't know.
Stick arm.
it's Wazira.
Oh, it's
It
okay.
doesn't
Sorry.
start with an M. You
Okay,
are
I flipped it upside down. Whatever.
okay, SpongeBob.
Should be set to W for Wumbo. But yeah, no.
Hmm.
It's yeah. So she sees him. They make out. It's great. And
There's
then
this, and then there's this idea that the Dark Elves need a leader.
mhm.
Uh,
They need daddy.
they, they need to be brought together, which is again fascinating for where this thing goes, because
It's a kind of chaos that Malekith can take advantage of, really. That's what it's set up as.
Yeah.
take advantage of the power vacuum. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah,
like
we oh sorry, go ahead.
we then see Malekith trying to ally himself with giants, uh, taking advantage of things and immediately facing our party. Uh, and once again, I think the narration here is a really good way of portraying this battle. Like, because the
Mhm.
art is obviously doing it, but just the brief narration with just the very fractured dialogue,
I'm telling you,
it gives
man.
you the sense.
Anthony Hopkins' voice for the narration.
It gives you the sense that everything's chaos, everything is falling apart. Um, and this is one of those things where things are not going things are not going to work. And of course, it then builds to just each issue kind of has to end with a twist in a way. Um, this one, with the twist of the Dark Elves falling in the Frost Giants.
Yes. Yeah, we don't have to get like Frost Giants cliffhanger here. Once again, love the art here. They look fantastic. And yeah, of course, Thor and his friends have arrived at this point, and
I
that
ju-
is. Oh wait, sorry, no wait, we totally glossed over the part where Malekith kills the giant.
yeah, I was going to mention that he fucking jumps in his throat.
Oh, it's so, and then it comes out of his fucking eye. Like, oh my god,
Yeah.
it's so good. Yeah, fucking brutal. Oh my god. And then the Frost Giant reveal happens, and that's the end of the issue. But yeah, going into Thor: God of Thunder number 16 here. Coming up on the end of this arc. It's our penultimate issue. Yeah, picking up right where we left off. Frost Giant reveal and all. We open on some great action here as Thor is rightfully pissed off at this point. Um, the Dark Elves and Frost Giants eventually escape together, and Thor and the party take some time to bury their friend, which is just a really lovely moment. I like that. I also love his gravestone that reads out his entire name and his great deeds. It's lovely. It's just a really lovely moment. Um,
Yeah, I liked how sort of almost comedic the tributes were.
yeah, right. I do. Yeah, I
Because
appreciate
they
that.
they didn't really know him that well, but Thor was still adamant that they had to pay respects.
Yeah. Well, what is also nice about it is that like he was introduced kind of as a comedic character, just with this ridiculously long name for a giant and all that. And then yeah, he does get this like really nice dramatic moment that is like treated with the weight that it deserves here. I really like that. You could have easily played this for laughs, and Aaron takes it seriously. It's really nice.
And also, it kind of echoes Thor's very his priority for loyalty. It's like he doesn't have to know you well. If you're on his side, then he
Mhm.
will care. If
Yeah,
you're taken down,
yeah, definitely.
It's also just very much the idea of he was a person, and a person deserves at least some respect.
Yeah.
In the end. It's also fascinating because this is what really also then fractures the party. Like,
Yeah, because it's then Thor's drive to continue his hunt and this sort of like bloodlust that he has for finding Malekith, and this sort of like fractures the party because they're like, hey, we should actually like chill out right now, like we need to like like regroup, like retrace our steps and take a step back, and Thor lashes out, and we get this horrifying moment where Thor fights Ud the troll, and like captures him, and like with the help of I once again forgot her name, the Dark Elf lady. Shit. Anyway, she helps him like restrain Ud, and Thor seemingly smashes Ud's head in. Um, horrifying image. I love the way it's drawn. This blood all over
It's also
Mjolnir.
after coming upon this bloody mess of dark elves and establishing it very much that Malekith wasn't here. That there's this group of dark elves that just slaughtered each other
Yeah.
because of the power vacuum. Uh,
Mhm.
and it, it's chaos seems to be a big theme with Jason Aaron's run so far. Um, Very much the idea that this chaos is going to create more and more bloodshed, uh, all for things to end. Because then we have Thor smashing someone's head in, saying there is no more League of Realms, and Malekith has just been watching them this entire time.
Mhm.
Uh,
Who's like really into seeing Thor just slaughter Ud. And then the party sort of goes their separate ways. Thor goes off with his dark elf girlfriend, and they go to Earth, to Midgard, together. Um, and I forget, actually, we do see the others later on, right? Yeah, we do. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Sorry, it
Oh,
has been a while since I've read this.
I just wanted to mention another bit of funny dialogue. Bloody Midgard, world of fossil fuels and high fructose corn syrup.
Yes.
of monsters and because they are in New York City.
Yes.
Yeah.
New York City. Um, yes. Um, yeah.
uh,
Uh, you
Going
see,
to this butcher shop. Uh, that apparently sells just sells butchery from all over the Nine Realms to Midgard, which is just this tiny little detail. Tiny little detail. I really wish the MCU would like put in like actually like world build stuff like this where it's like we
yeah, it's
have
like how would Earth just kind of naturally change as more and more fantastical elements become part of their
because
world?
it's something that
Um,
both Marvel and DC, in terms of comics, actually do. And it's always interesting to see what different writers do with that.
mhm.
Uh,
I'll say we have
Yeah,
a
I
fun.
mean,
I'll say we have
if
a.
you know,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
if the Earth and especially America found out that there was ways to feed people outside of Earth, they would do it.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
we
Um,
we
Not
would
only feed people,
capitalize
but
that
make
shit.
money off it.
Yeah, exactly. I'll say, Jacob, we have a great example of that coming up in our next episode as far as DC Comics goes. So,
We do. Okay,
yeah,
that
there's a little hint.
interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. Anyway, yeah, we then find another dark elf here, and sorry, a group of dark elves here. Um, that Thor would like to sort of enlist to help them. And meanwhile, Malekith and his army of dark elves walks into this sort of butcher's shop here. Um,
I love how Malekith comes in with you feel guts, I see. Splendid. I'll take all you got.
so
Uh,
good. Yeah, very fun.
Again,
Again,
I
I
wish
just
Chris Eccleston was able
right.
to play this delicious madness.
Yeah,
Uh,
oh, it would have been so good, but whatever. Um. Anyway, but yeah, so we then end on this great cliffhanger here where Waziria has discovered that something is wrong with Thor and forces this thing out of him in the form of this space slug looking thing that comes out of Thor's mouth that seems to have infected him this whole time, and that is
Thor has literally been bugged.
it's been here the whole time. Bringing us into Thor God of Thunder number 17, the end of our main story arc here for this volume. Not our last issue, but yeah, let's get into this. So yeah, picking up where we left off, the giant bug thing has come out of Thor. Um, the Dark Elves kill it, and then the rest of the party comes back, including,
Turns yeah.
importantly, Ud the Troll, who's
So
here
it
again.
turns out Thor grew up with Loki.
Hmm.
He's learned a couple of tricks. which I don't entirely know if I love
So,
that
like,
aspect.
I don't mind that aspect of it. I don't mind the whole, like, oh, Thor picked up a trick or two. I just don't like the idea that, like, Thor was infected by this bug thing, but what, like, knew that he was infected or something?
Knew that he was infected,
Enough to pretend to kill Ud? Like, I could buy
or
you pretending to kill Ud.
maybe he had just picked up on the fact that Malekith had been following them the entire time. It's not entirely clear. Like,
Yeah, I don't
the
know.
one kind of weak, it's like the one really weak aspect of
Yeah,
the story.
it is, and it's not even like the I like the twist of Thor being infected with this thing, but I just don't like the idea that he's infected with this thing and he still decided to pretend to kill Ud underneath it all.
See, there's a silver lining to it because at the end of the last issue, it turns out Thor has been acting as a leader, has been making proposals to Dark Elves to try and bring them together somehow, even if that ultimately doesn't work. So it kind of works a little bit, but not entirely. It's kind of messy. It's a little
Yeah,
Yeah,
messy.
it's a little confused in its messaging, I think, is the biggest problem.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And I mean, hey, you know, we've read many a comic on this podcast that just can't quite stick the landing. This sticks it better than most, I would say.
oh yeah, no, this one is still sticking a satisfying landing. This isn't, say, Trinity War. Which
You didn't like most of Trinity War. It wasn't just the ending that killed it for you.
that's true. That's true. I'm trying to think of other things that don't stick the landing in
That
that
didn't
kind
stick
of.
the landing. Aquaman: Death of a King.
Oh yeah, that doesn't stick the landing, and that greatly weakens that story for most of it.
Yeah.
I'd also argue Night Quest, mainly as a
I
continuation,
think all of Night Quest kind of sucks.
mainly as a continuation of what Nightfall was laying down, because Nightfall is brilliant. Night's End is pretty
I
good.
maintain you can cut out the entirety of Night Quest from that saga.
I mean, you could. Dirk Maggs nearly pretty much did.
You're right. You're right. I did listen to that, and you're right. He did. Anyway, getting back into this though. Yeah, Connor, if you're gonna read Batman comics, just don't bother with Nightfall. It's not actually that good.
Well, there's a lot of those.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I could recommend you some actually really good Batman comics if you want.
When
but
I
anyway,
have money.
yes, that is the important thing about this hobby.
If you
But
have access to your local library, because
that's true. That's
libraries are. PSA: support your local library. They are a resource that is integral. That should stay afloat, especially if you're in the US or really anywhere. Apparently, the UK has some problems with their local libraries having cut hours from people I've talked to.
oh
One of my
seriously?
flatmates is a comic book collector, so there is that as well.
Oh nice, cool.
Yeah.
Very
He
very
actually has a
cool.
binder that he built recently.
Oh damn. Oh, he was like single issues in there, or
Yeah. Yeah.
nice. Very cool. Anyway, getting back into this actually, yeah, fight scene breaks out. That's actually most of the rest of the issue is a fight scene. Cause yeah, after our reveals happen, we get this just a great action sequence where we fight off the rest of our dark elves, Malekith included,
It
of
is the
course.
most D&D of endings, and it's great. Again, I have DM'd sessions
as
like
with
this. I have played in
as with
sessions like this.
as with D&D campaigns, you can lay out as many intricate plot threads as you want. It's probably just going to end in some combat. So yeah. Yeah, so that is exactly what this is. We defeat Malekith in the end.
We
Uh,
I think, one of the first in this run, as far as I can tell, great summoning Mjolnir moments of just
yeah,
summoning it from across New York City, which is
New York City. Yeah, great moment. I love that single panel at the bottom of that page of Thor holding out his hand and the lightning coming from it. So good. Um, but yeah, we capture Malekith, we imprison him. I do like the little like pretty much slap on the wrist he gets at the end here because essentially he is taken in, but he's also elected as leader of the Dark Elves. He is the one chosen to sort of unify these Dark Elves.
Yeah.
Uh,
So Thor's about to execute him, and then they go, actually, Congress votes him as the president. So he is Like doesn't have to be executed.
Yeah, yeah. I love that little like shitty grin with his tongue out panel
When
at the
was this
top of that one page.
published?
Probably 2016, I think.
Early
No,
2014.
no. Yeah,
Early
we're only in
2014.
2014.
Oh no, this issue though wouldn't it have been
Yeah,
2015.
no, this issue
Oh,
would
no.
have only been
Oh,
2014.
so 2014. Oh, damn. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, we are so escalators have not. Someone hasn't gone down the escalator yet and
Yeah, I mean,
started all this
this
madness.
issue has aged very well in the last 10 years.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
let's hope that come this November it ages poorly. Please.
You may have
I
just
hope.
aged this podcast episode. Anyway, but yeah, we sort of close out our story here.
Yeah, with our final twist of Lady Waziria having to serve Malekith's sentence in his place,
Yeah. Oh God.
which is a haunting image.
Yeah, watching her like walk among the spiders there. Oh, it's so good.
And then also Malekith putting on this literal crown of thorns.
Yeah. Oh my God. And
And
still on his fucking giant white tiger dragon thing. My God, it's so cool. So cool. But yeah. And then we close out Thor flying away and ending on a little sort of tease here for future dark elf things. Which will be
Jason
super-
Aaron is going to get all the 9 realms involved in some war.
Yeah, yeah. So, that was that arc. Let's finish out the collection though with
Yeah.
extra little issue at the end.
That feels like an ending. But then issue 18 kind of punched me in the face and was maybe one of my favorite things of this run so far. Like,
Really, I'm
yeah,
surprised. I'm surprised at that actually.
I don't know. I mean, I'm a sucker for a character study, and this entire thing is a character study.
Mm-hmm.
It's a classic riff on St. George slaying a dragon, and the dragon. Such a poor dragon. I feel so bad for the dragon. Because, yeah. So first off, I love the opening. First page is it brilliant of a hungover Thor waking up in the mouth of a dragon,
Mm-hmm. Very fun.
and
I also love. First of all, I just love these dragon designs. They're really really cool. Very different dragon designs. I just really appreciate that. I don't know. They're almost shark like.
yeah. The art on this issue is different colors, both by Das Pastoris. Uh, so a very different style of art. Almost harkening back to some of the watercolors of the early
Oh yeah, that's true.
issues.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, this is also an issue pretty explicitly focusing on young Thor.
Mm-hmm.
This is a young Thor issue. We are set in Iceland in 894. Uh, it it turns out Thor. We think he slayed this dragon. Turns out the dragon's not dead. That
Turns out he's a friend. He's a drinking buddy of Thor.
Also, I'd probably
he's-
mention that this was set up a little bit in that first standalone issue before the Accursed, when we saw young Thor in.
Oh yeah, in those like first few pages there.
Yeah, and they were like naming all the like, why would you be here? Because we have all these negatives going against us. He likes it. He actually thrives off it, which explains why he likes it. There,
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of these young Thor segments, I think, are all a really great like sort of natural extension of where we saw him at the start of the God Butcher. So I think it really works. This I think this definitely being the most spotlight that young Thor has gotten. Dragon.
Also,
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm not the only one who started reading this and thought of the bloody space worm from Star Wars.
Yes, honestly, yeah, it does look like that. Yeah, totally. Now the important question though for both of you: what voice are we giving this dragon in our heads? It's got to be something kind of dopey, right?
Yeah,
for some reason, in my brain, I don't know why it went to Jack Black, but it did. I don't know why. I genuinely don't.
Yeah, I'll take it.
That could work. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Jack Black Dragon is a drinking buddy of Thor's. And is
Called
passed.
Scabgag.
Yes. Who is now being sent away back to his fellow dragon people.
Because the group of Vikings have had some of their goats being killed, and they thought Scabgag did it. Turns out he didn't.
Mhm.
That it turns out that they were searching for whoever killed these dogs, could not find them. Turns out trolls. It was trolls, wasn't it? It might have been trolls. I seem to remember something about trolls.
Very fun setup. Oh, I love it. Yeah, Scabgag goes back to his fellow dragons, pretty much like given a pep talk by one of his fellow dragons, told to go back to Thor and like challenge him properly.
It's
And
also like, again, we're paralleling the whole idea of sons not being like their fathers,
mhm.
uh, which is something interesting for young Thor, especially a young Thor who has seen what his future holds in the far,
Yeah,
far future.
yeah, and also while this whole like scene is going on, we get this great scene between Thor and Heimdall here. Again, just commenting on the whole, again, Thor not being like Odin. Everyone's kind of like disappointment in Thor at this time, because again, we're still at a time where Thor does not have Mjolnir. It's cool. It's very cool. But anyway, Dragon comes back, challenges Thor. Thor is forced to fight him, pretty much, and Thor
forced
is
to fight, and it escalates terribly to other people getting attacked. And then it ends with the heavy, heavy implication that Thor had to kill him.
Yep. And it is just heartbreaking. Oh my god. I love it. And that's where the collection ends. It's a strong note to end on. Overall, I think like the Accursed overall is actually a really strong volume. And as mentioned before, it definitely is sort of overshadowed by God Butcher and God Bomb.
I mean, for good reason. Like,
Yeah, God Butcher and God Bomb just come out swinging. It's
well, Gunnish and Godbomb are also very lightning in a bottle of doing something different,
and having
getting eyes on
having
board.
like such an insanely unique idea for a Thor story. Certainly nothing had ever been done like it before. And then sort of going into something more, I guess, traditional. And Jason Aaron just wanting to tell more, I guess, regular Thor stories, while also doing a great job of examining Thor as a character. It's really great. It's really, really great. And also, this is definitely the volume that sets up where the larger run is going. It's great. I love it.
Also, just
That
I know
lasts
it's a
long
small
time.
thing, but like the blending of different creatures together. Like in this one, you had like a shark dragon as his
Mhm.
friend,
Yeah.
and then Malekith rides this war tiger thing that flies. It's fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. Did we have anything like that in God Butcher and God Bomb? I don't think so.
I don't think so specifically. At least, I mean, some of the alien designs were pretty cool. I mean, pretty interesting looking, but rarely chimeric, like sort of the designs in this volume.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, oddly enough, I would say the design of Gore and his family is
Mm.
a fascinating design. Uh,
It is still so weird that they cut the whole head tail design aspect from the movie, where they adapted Gore. I think it's weird, because Gore has such a unique design. I don't know. I know. Also, I think we spend a lot of these Thor episodes talking about the MCU, don't we? I think because the
Because it's such
Probably
a
MCU.
because
contentious thing. It's
Yeah. Oh
such a
yeah.
contentious thing.
Because the MCU fumbled Thor as a character so hard,
I mean,
Super
there's
fast.
discourse
As
around
I read more, as I
every.
read more Marvel, I have this feeling that there's going to be a lot of characters that the MCU has fumbled.
There is
Yeah,
discourse around every time Thor appears in the MCU,
yeah,
in all of his films, not just his own films, but also the Avengers films he's in as well. Like, there's always
yeah,
discourse.
yep. I don't think, I really don't think we'll ever really get back to Phase One Thor, because like it's not just Thor that he's great. I do really like him in the first Avengers film as well. Um, mostly because probably mostly because it is a film so focused around the fallout from the first Thor film.
Yeah, he
Um,
does get slightly Whedonized. I mean, especially Loki, very Whedonized in that film.
yeah, yeah,
But
I
it's
would
not
argue
offensive.
that the Avengers as a film is one of Whedon's like one of those films where Joss Whedon works, if that makes
well,
sense. Like,
the Avengers is great, but the Avengers is also unfortunately a lot of the reason why the rest of the MCU is the way it is.
yes, and
Um,
I mean,
so
here's the
while
thing.
I do still love it. I think that first Avengers film was fantastic. It had such a negative effect on a lot of future
Yeah,
projects.
I found it difficult to rewatch after I'd seen a lot of the rest of them because I was like, oh, I'm sick of these traits now.
Mm, yeah, but
Yeah,
those things were so unique at the time, you know.
well, not so
Yeah,
much
that's true.
unique. Joss Whedon had written several very successful television shows.
Unique
In
certainly to the superhero film genre, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
Anyway, um, any sort of closing thoughts on the Accursed from you two?
I mean, like the other two things, I just really enjoy these comics overall. I think there's something about Thor that's different to the rest of Marvel
Mm,
that appeals to me heavily. I felt this when I watched the first Thor film, and feel it again with reading this, if not more so.
mm.
Um,
May I just say I'm so happy that like you agreed to come on this episode, because I remember like talking to you a while ago about your love, your and my love of the first Thor film, and just kind
yeah,
of like and that's part of the reason why I was like really excited to have you on this episode, because because I knew you would feel at the very least it's something that you would enjoy, and I hope feel passionately about, and I'm glad we were able to have this conversation.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's not. I wouldn't call it a perfect film, but what it's going for is very much in my. It's in my soft spot of enjoyment. Like, I rewatched Phase One a couple of years ago again. Maybe it was 2 years or 1 year, and that one. There's just something about that film that is different to the others. And the
Oh,
way, like
definitely.
the way the dialogue is spoken, the way that the scenes are paced, the way that it's made, the way it's performed, like everything about it is different to the
Yeah.
other films, and it's in a way that I really enjoy. It doesn't have a lot of those really head scratching, you know, moments that turn me off a lot of those films.
Mm,
It's different, and then it all that gets sacrificed after because they lose Kenneth Branagh, and it sucks.
I
yeah.
was going to say, have you seen
Which
anything else that Kenneth Branagh has directed?
may have. I've definitely heard of it.
Because you may like his at least some of his Shakespeare stuff, because he's
Yeah, I've heard some great.
directed a bunch of Shakespeare. I know people love Much Ado About Nothing, which he directed, and then
Yeah,
screenplay was
I've heard
adapted
he's got
by
some
Emma
very.
Thompson. Yeah,
I've heard he's got some great films.
he's also
I mean,
got some bad ones. Hi, don't let him touch Agatha Christie.
yeah, but I can't. I can't tell you how disappointed I was the first time I watched The Dark World. I was like, holy shit, they've completely like just not done what I wanted.
Mm,
And then they did Thor Ragnarok, which is
it
not
is,
even recognizable. It's like
yeah.
a whole different thing entirely.
Like it really is like the second Branagh leaves, you just feel that absence immediately,
Yeah,
and
it's so
it is
strange.
too.
And that's why I had such a quench to read these comics because I felt like there was so much left on the table that I wanted to explore.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, hopefully we can definitely have you on next time we cover more Thor. It'll definitely be the rest of those issues that you have in that volume.
Yes.
So yeah, that'll be cool. But yeah, I guess let's close this thing out. Jacob, it is time. Would you like
Yeah,
to take a guess at what the next episode of Fresh Face Comics is?
I mean, it's going to be the next volume of Batman by Tom King. That's what it is.
Do you
It's something
think
you.
so? If you okay, are how confident are you in that? Like,
Oh, you tipped me off by mentioning how the world's changed and adapted to superheroes.
no,
Because
because I feel like that's I meant like because we were talking about the whole the like butcher shop, like yeah, like how it's adapting. Like I feel like that could apply to anything. You know, that could be like any sort of like superhero themed restaurant or whatever existing in universe.
then tell me I'm wrong. Then tell me I'm wrong.
Jacob, I want a percentage. How sure are you that that is the next episode?
Oh, I'm pretty damn sure, like 90% sure.
90%. So you know what happens whenever you're that confident about a guess for the next
Yeah, I'm
episode?
wrong, aren't I?
No, what usually happens is you're right because you're right. So yeah, so
I
next
am
time,
right.
so yeah, next time on Fresh Face Comics, we're talking about Batman by Tom King. We're doing the second Rebirth Deluxe Edition, plus the button as well because the button is included in the Deluxe Edition. So it's like 16 issues, I think. It's like 18 issues. It's a
It's a
lot.
lot. It's a
Yeah,
lot.
19. No, sorry, no, because there's also the annual in there, and I want to say it's 20 actually. I think it's 20
All
issues.
right, all right, all
And
right.
also, odds are we're probably having a guest on the next one.
Yeah, we're very
So
possibly having a guest.
yeah, so that's gonna be fun. That's gonna be probably even longer than the last episode.
Oh God,
How
that's gonna
crazy would
be.
it be if we made a new longest episode of this podcast ever? My God, I can't even imagine it. Anyway,
That one we need. If it ends up getting that long, we need to put in an intermission.
yeah, probably. But yeah, let's close this thing out. Let's do promotions. Let's do all that. Connor, let's start with you. What do you got going on?
Well, the last time we did a big video together was on Brian's channel, and at that point I had a video coming up, and that video has since come out, and it is my reordering of the Apple Top 100 albums. Not only reordering, but also reviewing them, sort of briefly. So that's on my channel. A lot of the stuff I'm doing upcoming is actually going to be coming out at the end of the year in December. So I don't have a lot to happen. But anyway, as I said, I spent a lot of time working on that one video, so I still recommend it.
Cool. Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah, definitely. I'll have your channel and I'll probably put your Twitter as well down in the description below. Check that out there. Jacob, what do you got going on?
Mainly still have my blog where I've mainly just on reviewing Star Trek week to week. And at the time of this coming out, I will have just finished season 1 of the animated series, which is with an episode with a title that I do not want to say.
I swear when my video on that one comes out, it's gonna get flagged by YouTube somehow. I fucking
Yeah,
know
I'm.
it. Yeah, so check that out. I guess moving over to my promotions, yeah, that video will definitely be out at this point, which means the following week, the next Star Trek video will be out, which will be the start of the animated series season 2, which brings us ever so closer to the Star Trek movies, which I'm sure a lot of people, I know for a fact, a lot of people are looking forward to. So that's fantastic.
I'm just looking forward to being done with the animated series.
Yeah, it becomes a really rough journey towards the end. So
It has started to just.
so many episodes just feel the same. And you don't remember most of them by the second they're done. Like it's terrible. It's not terrible. It's not even a terrible show. I can't even confidently say I dislike it. It is just
Season 3 of original Star Trek is definitely worse.
Yeah, but at least I don't know. At least I can remember what each of those episodes were. Anyway, also other things on the channel, we do Fresh Face One Shots, the spin-off of Fresh Face Comics, where we cover current comics. We cover Superman by Joshua Williamson, Wonder Woman by Tom King, Batman the Brave and the Bold by Various, because it's an anthology. We're also covering the Summer DC event of 2024, Absolute Power, plus its tie-ins, which is tying into Superman and Wonder Woman, which is awesome. We're also covering the current Batman miniseries, Death in the Family, Robin Lives, the alternate timeline in which Jason Todd survived the events of Death in the Family, which has been fantastic so far. And we also started covering our first Marvel one-shots with Uncanny X-Men by Gail Simone, which had a fantastic first issue, and I cannot wait to see more of next month. I think we're getting 2 issues next month, which is going to be awesome.
Yes, we're getting 2 and 3.
Yeah. So yeah, check all that out. And otherwise, R2BD is happening. We should finally have our High Republic Spectacular coming up in the near future, covering the Acolyte and a couple High Republic books and comics, as well as Breaking Brian. That's a series that exists somewhere in the space-time continuum. There's one video left. I really should stop promoting it because I don't think it's going to come out anytime soon. But who knows? I guess I'll keep bringing it up. Anyway,
just get on Brian's.
I keep trying to. It's not working. Anyway, Connor, just one last time, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, thank you.
I love getting new guests on and having
and thank you for awesome. Thank you for powering through being sick. Like,
yes, genuinely, yeah. And also, I will always salute people in different time zones doing guest episodes with us because, it's especially ones as drastic as yours, as far as time differences go.
I mean, to be fair, I've had it pretty easy. It's 2 in the afternoon at the moment.
Fair enough. But yeah, I think that about does it. Thank you all so much for listening. Be sure to leave a rating, subscribe, like us wherever you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Subscribe to Blood Donut Studios. Our link trees and everything will be linked in the description below, as well as the books that we covered this time and are covering next time on the podcast. So until next time, this has been Joey Morgan,
Jacob Licklider,
Thor fucks hard.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.